stopped recording, you stopped recording. So that's a real problem we might have with our classes.
It is, and that's worth remembering. You're going to have to, yeah, well noted. I'm going to, I am recording. Nobody else does. And it's going to end up, because I was the first one here, it's going to end up, no matter who records, in my, what do you call it, my drive, in that Meet recording folder. And then I've been sharing with you guys. So if there's anybody out there who's trying to record for your own purposes, trust me, so far, 5 out of 5 days, I've managed to get a recording up for you guys to watch again. Don't know why you'd want to sit through this for another hour, but God bless you. So thank you for keeping an eye on that. If that happens again, just go ahead and unmute yourself and holler at me, because I don't know who's here. We are going to end on time because I do have an appointment that I have to be at. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Can you see my face? Do I look honest? It's been super crazy around here. The closer we get to the actual birth of this year, the labor pains are getting harder. So getting content to everybody, getting everything rostered, making sure everything's working for track D, which begins Monday. So while I feel prepared, I also feel like I can always be more prepared. So I do have to end on time though. Real quickly, I want a couple reminders, and because we are recording, this is a good time for this. You're going to be getting another one of these. It'll probably come to you tomorrow, but it might be late tomorrow. If you have not yet responded to the little form from last time, I'm going to put the link to the form that helps you decide on the next topics at the top of our stream. Okay, you'll get a notification about that, and you'll just be able to open up the Google Classroom and tap on it. Probably tap on it from your email. But I want your input. Robert's going to be running the next 6 webinars. I'll be off contract. Don't be jealous. I worked all summer. But I do want to make sure we have everyone's input about what's going to be covered. We are going to also send something out sometime, probably not next week, but the one after that, about adjusting the time. Because right now 1 to 2 is awesome. You guys are sitting there eating your lunch, and I've had lunch. And but when you start teaching on the 10th, no matter who you are, elementary, secondary, blended, who's going distance or permanent distance, you might find 1 to 2 not the most convenient time. So we're going to send out a survey, and we will bump the time out to what's most convenient for most people. And then in addition, we will consider if we need to move. As interest wanes a bit because you're going to be so busy, we may move these to not 3 days a week, but every week on a Tuesday or every week on a Wednesday. So again, we'll send something out. Just kind of keep an eye out when you get something from the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday Google Classroom. Tap and answer would be great. There will not be pauses for question time today. In the interest of trying to cover a whole bunch of things, I want to make sure we have that time. And again, unanswered questions, just throw them at me. I got all weekend to answer these questions. Today is going to be sort of one of those Halloween candy kind of days, because you're going to hear some stuff at the beginning that are essential, and then you're going to get a taste test of several things. There's going to be a moment during which you will also be able to contribute your own ideas in a Padlet. And I want you guys to think back, even if it's not something you're well versed in. I promise that unless you say, reach out to me for more information, we're just going to take your idea and consider it something that we get to work with on our own. So don't be afraid to put ideas in there. Let's see. And also you should know that as we go through these taste tests, this is not a deep training on any one of these things. I'm not a big believer in advocating for something that costs money. So at this point, there's nothing on my agenda that costs anything. And we do need to advocate for proper licensing. So at one point, we'll be talking about something called Wakelet, and kids need to be 13 to have an account in Wakelet. We'll talk about that then, but keep that in mind as you look at other products after we're all done talking. If there's something you want to use with students, make sure it's okay to use with students. Now with Wakelet, there is a way to use it without them having to make an account. So we're still going to talk about it. All right, so with that, I still see the record button on. And let's begin by talking about tabs. I'm going to begin presenting my entire screen. All right. Fantastic. Now you can see little pictures of several people. I'm going to move myself over to a different screen. You should see our stream page in our Google Classroom. And forgive me if I'm being too slow or simple in my conversation, but we're addressing something that's very, very important, and that is vocabulary. Before you guys teach anything, you deal with vocabulary. Let's make sure we're speaking the same language and sharing the same words. So I am in the Chrome browser. Chrome browser is what we're all using for the most part. Even if we're on a Mac, even if we're on an iPad, we can use the Chrome browser. We like to say that the Chrome browser plays nicest with everything that we're offering. And so I know I'm in the Chrome browser because if I look down at my taskbar, which you may or may not see, I have that circle that is red, yellow, and green with a nice blue circle in the center of it. That's the Chrome browser. It reminds me of that old Simon game. About a third of you are my age, so you might remember that. And some of you might have gotten it under the Christmas tree, but this Simon game is what that reminds me of. So in the Chrome browser, this is a window. This whole thing is a window. And each of these at the top, and I know you can see them, each of these at the top are tabs. They're not pages, they're not screens, these are tabs. The active tab is the one that's darker. Yours might look slightly different because you have a different theme or coloring to your page. I've got this nice little burgundy color. Yours could be black and white, doesn't matter. The darker one is the one that's chosen, and they're supposed to be reminiscent of folder tabs, you know, those of us who used to use file cabinets. We put file folders in there, and these are file folder tabs. All right. Why am I showing you tabs and why am I spending a full 2 minutes on them? Well, because students, it might be a little new to them. They might not be calling these tabs. They might not share the same vocabulary. And when you are having collaborative activities with students or you're providing them with other sites to visit, we'll need to actually use the word tabs to make sure that they're in the right spot. All right. So first things first, I've had this happen with a bunch of teachers. If I go across this third tab, there's for a second, my third tab with the red dot is where our meeting is happening. I need to remember that because I might need to pop back to the meeting to change a setting or to see what somebody else is presenting when I'm done presenting. So it's important to recognize that the meeting is happening where the red dot is. If you're doing a version of breakout rooms right now, you might have a second or third tab with that red dot indicating you have other active meetings happening at the same time. So that's job one. Job two is it's really common for kids and teachers to accidentally close a tab. And that can be a real time killer when you're trying to teach or trying to move kids into collaborative groups. And so I want to show you how to pin a tab. And again, we're all in the same browser, so we'll all have the same tools. And most of our kids will be using the exact same browser as well. I want to say all of them because that's what we encourage. If I go up to, for example, our meeting, and I'm hovering over it with my mouse, I'm going to right click and I get a little menu. And what I want to do is I want to pin this meeting, this tab. And when I pin it, check out what happens. It got really small and it moved to the left. But most importantly, it doesn't have an X anymore. So I cannot accidentally close that pin. I cannot accidentally close that tab because I've pinned it. I can access it. See, there you guys are. Hi, going back. So I recommend having them pin. If they're old enough and you feel like you're comfortable enough, I would have them pin the meeting where the lessons are occurring, where you are going to be the whole time, because that way they can't accidentally hang up on you and get lost and try and come back. And it's such a headache. Me personally, I like to save as much space up here as I can. You can see I have some tabs ready to go. That is a pro tip, having everything ready to go before you teach. I would probably go ahead and pin my class link. If I accidentally close my class link, then I can spend several minutes wasting time trying to get back into my Google Classroom if I accidentally close that, or finding other links that I might have shared through the teacher console and my backpack experience. So again, I like to just go ahead and have it use less real estate and pin it. What about this? It's a Google Classroom. I don't have to pin it, but I'm not necessarily going to use it right away. So you determine what they pin. I don't think it's terribly difficult to show from like second grade on how to pin a tab. The biggest problem is knowing right from left, knowing how to right click something. Now, if I want to move something out of being pinned, which you really don't ever need to, it's just as accessible via the pin as it is as a larger tab. But if and when you want to do that, you right click and then there's unpin. All right. All right. Let's see. I want to check through my notes because I don't want to miss anything. See, the ones that I think students have open most commonly, of course, would be their ClassLink, because this is the path that they took to get into your meeting to begin with. So they went from ClassLink to their classroom to the meeting itself. So they'll always have at least 3 tabs open. And then if during the meeting you send them off to something else, they could end up in their Google Drive or in Padlet or something. They could end up with a whole collection of tabs up here. And so alerting them to the fact that that X will close a tab is important. Sometimes they're a little free and easy with the whole click, 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 and they have pudgy little fingers that might just tap on that with their finger, but accidentally hit the X. So I know these things are in our future. The more we can make it impossible for them to close, the more important that is. All right, so the red dot is our meeting. ClassLink, there's our thing. Next, we have to talk about something called links. And I know y'all know what a link is. A link is just, or hyperlink is the whole word. It's something, a set of words, or sometimes it's an image. But for our purposes today, it'll just be words or addresses that take us somewhere else. We might have links as we plan engagement practices. We might just send kids via a link to a new website. We might send them into a document. It just really varies. And sometimes if we're sending them to another website that we prepared, the ability to share and get a link might look a little bit different. So I'm going to pop in and out of a couple of places eventually so I can show you how different it can be to look for links. When they show up in the Meet itself, and I'm going to go back here to our meeting and go into the chat. When I post a link here, it will look like a link. As a lot of you saw yesterday, when I posted a link here for, I think it was Whiteboard apps, and I think Sarah posted a link to an image. It looks like a link. When I hit send, it will show up blue and underlined up here. And a child or adult, whoever's in your meeting, can literally tap on that link and be taken directly to it without losing their meeting or losing their Google Classroom. They will be taken to a new tab, and it's the tab I want them to go to because I posted it. All right, I'm going to go into this tab right here, which I've opened and had ready to go right here in my drive, my Google Drive. I know I'm in my district account, but by habit over the past couple of years, I always make my mouse float up to the upper right-hand corner and make sure indeed this is my district account. I know, I see the logo, but it's just a good habit to make sure. In this folder, I've prepared a few things, but we were talking about links. Before I go any further, let me just show you how I get a link to anything. Anything in my drive, I can get a link to. And so this is just called as a random collection of docs, which are blue, and slides or presentations, which are this orange color. If I want a link to this doc, I simply right click over, and this is a skill for you. This is not a skill that your students need to use necessarily. They're just going to be at the receiving end of a link to this document. To get a link in my Google Drive, I right click over it. I can scroll through this selection of treasure chest of tools, but really what I want is just a shareable link. I happen to know where it is, but you may read it a couple of times before you, oh, there it is. When you click on that, it will come up with a pop-up. You're going to share with people or groups. I'm going to get the link. And if I just hit copy link, it's not going to work very well for me because right now this link is only for people who I've added to a list. I don't want that. I want this to be simple. I want my kids to not have to log in anywhere special a second time or third time. I want them to simply be able to tap on a link I provide them in our private meeting and then access it. So anyone with a link. And now this right here will allow anyone who has this link to open that document. Now, it's not a terribly interesting document, but I'm going to go ahead and click copy link. So now the link is copied to my virtual clipboard. Tap done. And just for giggles, I can go into our meeting over here. I've got my chat open. And if you guys want to test, I'm just doing this as a quick sample. Control V. Control V is what pastes anything that's on my virtual clipboard. And I'm going to send that. And my only point for doing that was truly just so you guys can see that that comes out as a hyperlink. You didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to. Good, Antonio, yes, but if you're just posting it and having kids click and go, you don't need to because it is a hyperlink. There is a Google shortener, and there's a couple of different shorteners I recommend that are in our training. Antonio's asking if we can shorten that link because it's not pretty at all. You can always go to tinyurl or bit.ly to shorten it. And some in Google Forms links have an automatic Google shortener you can use. But I think in my Drive, I couldn't do that. So basically, I just needed you guys to see that it shows up as a hyperlink. It comes up with restricted access for editing? What? Sarah, stop it. I'm going to go back here. It was this guy. Get shareable link. Link can view out. Thank you, Sarah. Anyone with a link can view, and over here, I missed a step. That's why I look at my notes. I'm so sorry. Over here where it says viewer, a viewer is a person who's not anything else. So a viewer can only see. It's got to be an editor if I want my kids to go here and edit. Thank you, Sarah. What would I do without you? Done. And so now, let's see, get shareable link. I'm just repeating that step. Anyone with a link is an editor. Copy that link. I'm going to go back here. We're going to let Sarah try it. Sarah's going to let us know that this is going to allow editing. Is that I know referred to? I know in the chat refers to what was Sarah. What would I do without Sarah, right? All right. Oh, I told you I'm a little punchy today. Now, why did I share that there? I actually would have created those docs. Let me go back in here. Those docs are actually docs prepared to share with students in a group. I would probably share these docs for my 3 collaborative groups. I would share them in my Google Classroom. Remember, your kids have the meeting, they have ClassLink, and they have the classroom open. If they've made it to your meeting, they have a classroom tab open. I like how it provides us with the little mini icon up here in the pinned tab. So I know what the classroom icon looks like. Mine is black and gray and white because that's the color of our classroom. If I happen to be in several different Google Classrooms at once, this little icon up here will be a different color depending on the color of the classroom, like this. So if I want to provide my students with a space to do some collaborative work, I'm going to go into classwork, create, assignment, and I'm going to first call this one Collab, Collab A. This is collaborative group A. I can give them instructions here. I'm going to add from my Google Drive. I don't need a link for it at this point. I'm going to add from my Google Drive something recent. I'm just going to call it Collab. And I want group A. Let's see, it's inside Collab Docs. And here's your, I have to hover over it. I should have put the name inside the beginning of my document. Let's see. Well, I guess we're going to see in a minute. Nope, that's C. So it was the other direction. Google Drive. Let that be a lesson to you. Probably that one. Insert. Okay. Plan your project for Collab A. It's a single document. And right now, with a single document, if I'm going to assign it to a group of 4 students or 10 students, I better make sure that they can do more than just look at this file. Instead, I'm going to allow them to edit this file. And I do want all the students to whom I assigned it, whether it's 4 or 10, I do want all of them to edit the same file. That's why I created 3 different ones. I have A and B and C. I want them all to be able to edit that same file and collaborate on ideas. And I will, of course, always have access to it because I'm the teacher and I posted it. Now, I happen to be in a classroom that has a whole bunch of students. And so I can allow, let's see, I can choose just a few here. If you see your name and you want to give this a shot, you may, but it's not really required. I'm just demonstrating that I don't need to provide a link to this if I post it in my Google Classroom. I can create my little collaborative groups in this way. Probably you won't be picking the top 8 alphabetically, but you might, who knows? And of course, it's a collaborative brainstorm. Everything else is something I would do for every assignment. I always like 4 o'clock. And of course, where do I store that? I want to put it somewhere where I can find it really easily. So I'm going to put this in sample assignments for right now. Now, this is ready for all my students in Collab Group A to tap on this and collaboratively at the same time or at different times, all have access to this one file that they can edit. Capiche? I'm going to go ahead and assign that. And if those folks saw their name and they want to give that a shot, they would need to go back to their Google Classroom, which may or may not be pinned if they were practicing pinning, and go for it. I'm going to walk through that one more time. But I could do that with any kind of document. It doesn't have to be on a Word doc. This is a Word doc. If you want to see what it looks like to start with, here it is. Everyone may type on the same page at the same time. Look at these guys. Look at them. There's my Sarah. Choose a different color for your participant, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so they are, each of these little flags represents different people who are working on this. I assigned it just to a few of them. I think some of the people are in here by virtue of my having shared that with the whole group earlier. So let's go ahead and have one that's available to only the people I choose. This time I'm going to go into my Google Classroom and I'm going to create assignment. This is Collab B. And I'm going to call this one restricted because nobody has seen a link to this one at all. So we should see no more than the number of students I choose working on this at a time. I'll go to Google Drive. I'm going to just go ahead and search in my drive. That seemed to be the quickest way to get to the document I wanted. It's that one. Insert. We're just going to do this. It's Collab C. All right, there we go. Students can view. Is that right? No, 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 no. We want everyone who is chosen to be able to edit it. I'm going up to assign it to certain students only. Here's all students. And then here, nobody has been able to access this one. If you see your name being tapped, you were one of the few who gets to maybe pop in. I don't know if you're actually on the call, so I'm going to tap about that many. These are people with last names that start with A and B. So now you can check on me. All right, ungraded, due date, yada, yada, yada. Let's go ahead and assign. Again, if your name started with an A or B, you saw your name being tapped over here and you're in the call, feel free to duck back into your Google Classroom, tap on the assignment that was provided to you. It's under, oh, I didn't choose a topic, that's okay. It'll just be at the top. You'll also get a notification in your stream. If we all want to pop in and see if there's anybody working on it, as a teacher, it's in my Google Drive. And no one's working on it yet, but we'll just kind of keep this open and we'll pop back in a little bit later. You guys want to check and see who is assigned to that? I think I can do that. Assignment 60. These people are all assigned. So if you see your name there and you're on the call, you're welcome to pop back into the Google Classroom and work on this document that you're allowed to edit. All right. Now, like I said earlier, you don't have to do it on a Google Doc. You can be doing this with a slide or any kind of document at all. So if I go into new Google Slides and I want to have a collaborative project in which I've got students each group R, and students can each perhaps create a slide, and each slide addresses a certain issue or addresses certain ideas. Your ideas for brainstorming, your ideas for group portfolios, your ideas for having a parking lot. These are all ways in which kids can all collaborate on one thing. This is called Group R. It's a slide presentation, and just like my doc, I can go ahead and share this with whatever groups I want to. So here's Group R, right click, get a shareable link. Make sure anyone can access it so we don't waste a bunch of time with people having to log in again. Change it from viewer to editor. Copy the link, and I can share it to some students in my chat, or all my students in my chat if I want everyone to work on that. Or again, back here, classwork, and make my groups this way. Again. Students can edit, all students, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I'm going to move on because we talked about sharing a slide or a doc and where to find a link and how to adjust it so that students may edit it, whether they're doing it through, whether you're getting that link through Drive to share with kids, or if you're assigning it to just some kids here. I'm going to close this assignment because I'm not really going to post this. And the other day, I neglected to tell you that you can also share a document with a student and make sure to make a copy. I'm sorry, you can also share a document to all your students. Let's see, I will do this document. And if I want each of my students to have their own copy of this document and edit or write on this document, I can make a copy for each student. So I neglected to show you that the other day, and that's a pretty important detail. Make a copy for each student. That way they aren't touching my original one. And then each student gets their own copy. It adds their name to it, and then it adds the name of the assignment. So if this assignment was called CCC, and this was being sent to Timmy Farnsworth, when it makes a copy for Timmy, it'll say Timmy Farnsworth -CCC. The other options were students can view. That means all my students can view the file but not touch it. Students can edit file, which is what we did earlier. The students assigned to it can edit that one single file. Okay. I'm going to now move on to something a little different. We have a whole G Suite of things that you can be considering if you are sort of a brave soul and you want to go pop in and see what else the Google Suite has to offer. Here in your Google Drive, if you tap on New, you can find several things. So we shared the Google Doc, and I showed you how you can share Google Slides. I don't know, depending on what you teach, if you want to share the sheets or spreadsheet program with your students to work on collaboratively. But when I hit more, or I don't even have to hit it, when I hover over the word more, I also have other options. I'm going to move away from forms, but Google Drawings is allows kids to design entire documents. I'm not going to do a training on that, but it is a place for you to kind of mess around and see what's available, and then provide your kids a share link to that. It's not just for drawing though. If you have ever used Microsoft Publisher, Google Drawings is like that. You create spaces, you plot pictures and text and headlines, and it's a very free form, single digital sheet of paper on which kids can produce something, a little bit like Jamboard. Google My Maps will open up on a map, and kids can then be dropping pins or dropping, it would be like a ruler so they can measure how far things are. They can plan a trip. You could have your fourth graders plan a trip along the Oregon Trail by using My Maps right here. And anything in here, you may produce a shared link for. Google Sites is a little website maker. It's very easy to use. We don't promote it right now. It uses a lot of memory and space, but I believe students fourth grade and up can use Google Sites. Google Jamboard we talked about the other day, and I'm going to be going into that shortly. To show you how to get a link from any one of these, I'm just going to drop into Google Drawings really quickly. And you're going to see up in the upper right-hand corner where it says share. So I've got one here. It is blank, and so I'm going to call it Project A, and it's blank. If I want to share it, I can either share it from here, or I can get a link. So I can add names here for the students I want to have it, or I can get a link in the same way that we had the link from our drive. But those that fell into the separate menu have a little bit different look to the way you get a link. I see the words get link. Look for this right here where it says change link. And let's see if we can get this open to, let's see, anyone, and edit. And now I can share this Project A, or whatever you want to call it, with my students. Or, as I said, you're welcome to just add names in here. I'm going to now go to a new topic. I know you have questions. I hate so much not being able to do a really thorough, oh, there's somebody, a really thorough deep training on any of these, but we do have a lot more resources in that website, digital resources website we've been touting. It's Carol Bennett.
Can you click on the face?
Click on the face. There you go. No secrets.
Do a video?
I'm sorry?
Can you do a video?
Can I do a video? You mean like right now?
A Google Meet with that person's face.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
When you
can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, when you click on the person's face,
Yes.
and then the
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, can I start a video call? This must be Sarah, you little smart girl. Somebody smart out there. Yeah, it looks like you can. I have not played with this at all. I don't want to advocate for it yet because I want to test it out a little bit, but thank you for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. This would just be to send a message if Carol I'm watching her work and she is having any kind of difficulty, I can interrupt her. This is live. So if Carol pops over here and begins typing some more, I can actually be there live. Thank you for mentioning that. I'll look into this part too and let you guys know what I learned, all right? I'm going to move along to another product, and then we had talked about Microsoft Whiteboard and we had talked about Jamboard yesterday. And I'm going to go to my Microsoft Whiteboard. It just as a refresh, or if you weren't in the, as a refresh, or if you weren't in the meeting, I think it was yesterday, which feels like 72 hours ago, at the bottom of your screen, your Windows machine has a taskbar. It's a black ribbon. We shared and also forwarded to the team, to our Google Classroom, how to get the pen with a squiggle, which is basically the Windows Ink Workspace. So if you haven't seen that, I'm going to have you go back and watch how to get this. When I tap on the Windows Ink Workspace, I have something called Whiteboard. We shared it when we were talking about what we can do during Google Meet. So it was Tuesday. If I tap on Whiteboard, and I've never used it before, I would log in with my district Microsoft account, which is the same as my district Google account. And when I do that, it will sync everything here. Now remember, these little whiteboards are all Microsoft products. So these are not going to necessarily sync with Google, are they? But what I wanted to show you today isn't the fact that it exists, because you're going to need to maybe just catch up and see the Tuesday Google Meet webinar to learn about that. What I wanted to show you today was how to share this or collaborate with the Microsoft Whiteboard. There's lots of different strategies you can use. If I want to start a whiteboard and write on it several different problems for my students to do, or several different problems for just one student to do because I'm giving them some one-on-one help, or several different problems for a small group of students to do, I can do that. So let's pretend I haven't killed all my time typing out problems here. And I'm going to go up to Mr. Head and Shoulders with a plus, and I'm going to be able to invite whoever I want. I can invite, let's see if it doesn't know who I know. So I know Carol's on the call and I know how to spell her name. Let's see what happens if I do that. There she is. I find her right away. Microsoft is our Outlook email. So everyone is in here and pretty easy to find. I'm going to tap on her. And when I invite her, she'll be invited to work on this board. This might be a whiteboard that just Carol and I share because she needs a little extra support, or she is differentiated because she's a GATE student. For whatever reason, I might do that. What I could also do, and it does say can edit, by the way, what I can also do is I can, ahead of time, and this is a strategy I've read online, is I can make one of these for each of my students. So this first one, this is the one I invited Carol to. I'm going to go ahead and name it.
Okay, Kim, I hate to interrupt. It's Lisa.
No,
Wait, is this the same as the Google slide then? The idea of, or no? Because I thought you were going to go over Google slide.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, during instruction, like when you want the kids to be able to write or show, or while you're all on Google Meets.
Okay, so let me have this child. If I have shared this with Carol outside, this is Microsoft. If I've shared this with Carol, and now Carol and I, it's 10:30 to 11. Everyone's got their independent work. I'm going to have everyone go into their Microsoft Whiteboard. This is how they're going to do it. Every child has access to it. So during that independent work time, if a student is going to be using the whiteboard instead of Google Slides, these are just options. You don't have to do one or the other. Let's see if I can. I'm going to pop into my whiteboard, and the student is going to pop into her whiteboard. Every student has that same Office 365 icon in their account on their class link. They have to log in the one time, and when they tap on it, it opens up in this landing page. They have Whiteboard. You remember me showing you that earlier, and now Carol and I can be working at the same time, or I can see what she's doing while she's working on it. Does that make sense? We're looking for independent work for students between lessons. So if we need to have students working on something that is, oh look, there's an update, text and post-its were just added last night. If I have one of these for each of my students, I could feasibly go into this and check what each of my students is doing one at a time. I can help the one student who needs the extra support, or there's Carol, hi honey. Or I can have them doing this in an asynchronous time. I could use this strategy at any time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right, so thank you, Carol. Thank you very much for participating. Like I said, you could also assign it to small groups. You're not limited to one person, but I saw this advocated for giving them one space where they can literally go in and, write out what they need to write or show me exactly what they're trying to do and it not working. And then during our asynchronous times, it's, 5 o'clock in the evening, I can pop back in and still address the issues my students are having. Okay, but during our synchronous times, this is also very handy for me to be able to pop in and see what see as changes are occurring live on my screen.
Kim, if you don't have individual whiteboards like you have right now, is there a way to tell who has done the drawing? Because I've had some naughty kids that have made drawings that were inappropriate, and there was no way for me to know who did the drawing.
Yeah, that would be the benefit to having just one kid at a time. Yeah, there would not be a way if it was me and Carol and Sarah and Angela and Liz and we were all in one, I wouldn't know what Carol drew and what Liz drew. I wouldn't. So that's something that's going to be a management issue. Then maybe just have one at a time. That's a great question though. Along the benefit of the Microsoft Whiteboard, by the way, is that every kid does have it. We don't have to worry about them being able to, install, find it in the taskbar and install. And it does have more bells and whistles in the app version down here, which is nice, but not every kid's going to be able to access this. But every single kid has an Office 365 account. And they, to remind you, if you weren't in on Tuesday's training, would add it by tapping on all apps, which all grades have, and then tapping on Whiteboard. And then it adds it to your, what do we call that? Landing page. And it's there forever after. Jamboard. Jamboard is another option. It's very, very similar. We talked about what made it, what was the same and different about it. If I go up here, actually, I think I already have it right here. Don't have to wait. If I open Jamboard from my waffle right there, students have it as well. Students might need to scroll down a bit before they see it. And remember that they can move these around. You can move these around as well. So if they find Jamboard, you end up using Jamboard, you can just ask the students to move it up so they can find it more quickly. Or you can always provide a link to a Jamboard. But Jamboard's really similar. You can use it during your independent work time, collaborative work time, or during your asynchronous time. You can set a Jamboard up ahead of time if you wish to put certain problems or closed sentences or a short reading and then questions over here, you can do that. And then right here where the share button is, allows you to do the same thing that we saw earlier, either add certain people and then it will land in their landing page, or provide them a link. Again, strategies for this one I've seen, because it has multiple, you can allow multiple pages, is to have one per student, especially for elementary. Obviously, that's wonky if you want to do that for high school. This might be really wonderful for an SDC class or for RSP. One per student, share this with one student whose name you enter there. And then you have one page per date or one page per topic. And then you have copious notes being kept and stored. Everything is a live save. But remember, the tools are quite simple, just like they were with the Microsoft Whiteboard. They can be working on this during their time between teaching and follow-up. This can be their I do. And then you can be watching as they go through and they're doing their various work. You can be on your, I just changed accounts. You can be in your landing page and literally see as things change on pages. It's a live save. So if I pop into one while somebody is changing it, I can see it immediately and correct any problems that they or misinterpretations they may have had while they were working on their projects. All right, I'm going to move on. I know you have questions. Again, this is very super fun, but I want to make sure we cover some things. I'm not sure if Keen is on our call, but Keen Misawa is a big advocate for Padlet. Padlet is free for up to 4 screens. I'm going to just log in with my account here. You can log in with Google or Microsoft, and nobody ever said you couldn't have more than one account, by the way. Padlet is a place where, come on, baby. There we go. Padlet's a great space. I'm going to go to engaging student activities in Google Meet. I made this space apparently 3 days ago. And this space is where you can drop your ideas, your files, your images, your work. I've heard of people using this as a discussion board. Here, let me go ahead and tap here at the bottom right. And I will be my first student. I've given it a title. I can write, oops, hello. Students can give themselves a title and give themselves any amount of contact, but these are where the magic really happens. So if you're using it as a brainstorm session, you might just be typing, or you might want to snap a picture of something that you've got with you, or you might want to do any number of these, or you might want to connect a link to this. Students can also do this. So if students are brainstorming and they have an idea based on a science project they did last year, they can link and find the website of that they used for science last year. That will be a great resource, or an idea, or perhaps they've seen a website that they want all of us to go to. Upload just uploads from your, your computer hard drive. So this space, while it's really simple, can be really powerful for brainstorming, for discussions, for planning. I would like us to use it for just a couple of minutes. I'd really love for us to use it for just a couple of minutes as just a share space for great ideas for student engagement. And then we're going to stop. I'm going to add a couple of things in here, a couple of ideas of ways I would use Padlet. If you want to access it, though, in order to share an idea, I'm going to look for the share button, and I'm going to share that link to everybody in the chat window. So I'm outside of Microsoft, I'm outside of Google, I'm outside of our district pushed items, and I'm going to copy a link to the clipboard. It says invite members, add members. I want this to be visitors can write. That's great. I don't need a QR code. Okay, looks like I'm going to be good, but let's find out. Copy link to clipboard. I've now copied a link. Here's our meeting. And now Sarah gets a tap on that and let me know if she can get in, but it looked like it was open to everybody. It said, there we go. Somebody's in there. Thanks. You're welcome, doll. Okay, take a minute. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys see it populate a little bit, and feel free to go ahead and add other files to it, or URLs, or images of any kind. It's mine. That's better. Ooh, just refreshed. Excellent. Very good. Nice, nice, nice. All right. So using it as a parking lot, we could have used this as a parking lot for our questions today instead of using the chat. We could have used this to turn in formative work. We could have used this for a whole bunch of things. What about exit tickets? This could be used potentially as a little exit ticket or a little quick formative assessment, but this is viewable to everybody in the Padlet. So this is an open space. Now, there are options, and I'm going to go back to the word Padlet in the upper left-hand corner and go to my landing page. You guys can continue doing what you're doing. Again, you see it only gives me space for 4, but I'd be okay with deleting this one and creating new ones. If I tap on Make a Padlet, it gives me a selection of different types of Padlets, different looks. And so I encourage you to pop in here and see what you can do. Again, you can do 4 for free, and it doesn't look like it's got a limited, like you can't use the map if you're on the free account, or the timeline is a great potential tool to have kids a little formative assessment. Now, if I have this and I share this with just one person, doesn't that make this a cool formative assessment? My dazzling Padlet, I'm going to call this a timeline of California history. And yes, made with love, yada, 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 copy to clipboard. I now have a URL or a shared link, a link that I can share with anybody. But if I go into Google Classroom and I only share it with one student, I can basically give them a single Padlet. Now, of course, that's not going to work for me because I'm not paying for it. But if you did want to do that for one kid at a time, you'd have to pay for it. This would be a place where a child could drop in and create a timeline. Maybe you want to do it as a group. Again, you're going to have to kind of deal with the idea that we have, we're limited to 4. But I wanted to show you really quickly. I'm going to discard and close that one. Show you really quickly that there's a variety. And we'll post some more information about Padlets later. We have about 9 minutes left, and so I'm going to move on to something else. I know a lot of people have heard of Flipgrid and might even be tired of how many people just love Flipgrid. This is not a Flipgrid training, and Flipgrid is not necessarily complicated, but it is a terrific engagement activity that you can do in between your teaching and your summation. So again, I've been teaching this class from 10 to 10:30, and then from 10:30 to 11, my kids are engaged in something that is in response to what we've been doing. And I'm going to provide a link. I'm just going to pick a random topic here. Let's see, digital citizenship. No, I'll just go ahead and do favorite things. We've been talking about this. I'm going to tap on share. I have a link. And so if I provide this link in the Google Meet to everybody, my students would then tap on that link and be asked to log in. They will log in very easily using their district username and password, but the username has to be the entire email. So the younger ones, I advise you guys to check out the page we have on Flipgrid trainings, because we can provide them instead with a much shorter ID. I'll show you how to do that. But for right now, if I provide this same link to absolutely everybody in the meeting itself, because they're logging in, I don't have to personalize it. You are certainly welcome to respond to that. You would just log in with your own Google or Microsoft, it's the same thing, account. But what's nice is now the kids are giving me a little bit of feedback. I wouldn't jump into Flipgrid without knowing a few things about Flipgrid. Honestly, there's going to be times when you want kids responding, but you don't want their classmates to see the responses. And there's going to be times where you have kids responding to a prompt and you do want them to see each other's. So again, this is like Halloween candy again. Flipgrid is wonderful, but you can't learn how to use Flipgrid in just a few minutes. So we're just giving you this option for this terrific audio video response tool. Audio video response tool. You can provide any kind of prompt you want for them, and they can respond privately, or they can respond so that their friends can also, or their classmates can also see them. You could even go so far as to allowing kids to respond to each other, but we don't want to go crazy here.
Hey,
All right.
Kim,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry. It's saying that we can't go in with our work email. our .chino.k12.ca.us. So maybe
Okay.
a personal account.
Yeah, I just grabbed something really quick. This one, let's check and see right now. Let's go into the grid itself. The grid, sort of good stuff, actions. Let's edit and check and see. That's because right here, I only have student domain at chino.k12.ca.us. Now you'll be able to get in. Oops, after I hit update. Now you should be able to tap on that and get in. Like I said, there's a few things in here that make it really, really special and very secure. And this is just one idea. So if you want more training on that, that would be awesome. I'd love to. I love Flipgrid. I've got 2 more things I want to show you really quickly. The concept of Hyperdoc you may have heard of. And so I'm going to go into just a 1-minute explanation of what a Hyperdoc is. And if you are interested in learning more about that, we have a few prepared trainings that are not quite done, and we will finish those up. If I go into Collab Docs, I pulled up, let's see. This is a slide. This is a Google Slides presentation. You can tell because you recognize this little logo on one side, there's its name. And each of these little slides is actually ready for a student to look at and respond to. And so if I assign this slideshow to my students, making a copy for each student, my students can each individually go into this slideshow and make the changes, make edits here or here. This is a very primary looking one, of course. List 3 facts. So in this way, I'm providing them with a guided practice. We might have them just do slides 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3 on our first day, and then we will learn more and then have them drop into their Hyperdoc again. So in order to assign this, if I wanted to assign the zoo animal Hyperdoc, I would assign it up here in the same way that you saw me do a little bit earlier. Create, assignment, add from my Google Drive, because it is a slides thing. There it is, zoo animals, insert, and make sure that I make a copy for each student. But when I did that, every student is going to get his or her own copy of this and will be able to enter or edit their answers, their contributions, their sentences, whatever they need to do. So that is essentially what a Hyperdoc is. I'm not going to post that. I'll show you another Hyperdoc that's just a little bit more, a tiny bit more mature. This is much more robust. It provides a lot more support. Island of the Blue Dolphins. These are big concepts. Somebody put a lot more, not that the other one did not have a lot of work put into it. Guiding questions, and then each chapter has an activity hyperlinked to it. This hyperlink right here leads to this slide right here, though. It doesn't take them out of the slide. It could, but this particular one did not. This person just put a lot of work into keeping everything extremely organized. I'm going to, when we're done, and probably won't be able to do it until tomorrow, I'm going to put a few sample Hyperdocs in the sample materials that we have in our classroom that we all share. And it wouldn't necessarily be something that you want to just copy, but just so you have a better idea as to how useful Hyperdocs can actually be. Technically, Hyperdocs have like a 7-step rhythm to them. However, it's not unusual for a teacher to not provide all 7 steps and just to get to the meat of things. You know what you're going to be teaching live. And so if you want to use the Hyperdoc concept to prepare Google Slides that will take you through a week of activity for the topic, that might be a brilliant idea. And to share this, I don't use a link. I simply go into my Google Classroom, create an assignment, attach what I've prepared from my Google Drive, Island of the Blue Dolphins, and make sure I make a copy for each student. If I don't do that, they'll all be making edits in the same file, and it will be my file. So that will make me very sad. Again, I'm not actually going to post that right now. I'd like to give it a little bit more thought and planning. The last thing I wanted to show you, and again, I'm just going to have to mention it and then step away because I promised that we would be on time today. And that's the product called Wakelet. And Wakelet, here's the name right here, Wakelet, is basically a content curation space. It's kind of like Pinterest for academics. It doesn't even have to be that academic, quite frankly. This is my Wakelet page on the web, and if you go through here, you can see I have a variety of interests, and so there's recipes and other things as well. So it's really quite useful for students. If I want to create a collection, I can add all kinds of things to my Wakelet. By tapping this little plus sign, you can get a sampling of the types of things I can add to this collection. And so when I say it's kind of like Pinterest, I can literally save URLs, which are web addresses. I can just type in notes and headings. I can add YouTubes. I can add tweets. There's a number of people out there who get great ideas from Twitter, but don't have a place to store them. Bookmarks, which are basically web links, images, I can upload PDFs, things from my Google Drive, things from my OneDrive. I can even put Flipgrid videos in here. So pretty much anything can be stored here. What I like to do with students is provide them vetted resources. If I've spent all morning, all day going through and finding the very best and most accurate gold rush websites and videos and resources, I can store them all in here and then share them with my students, and they do not need an account for that. Again, this is just a taste test, and there is so much more information to show you how to do that. In addition to sharing vetted resources with my students here, students can make their own. They would need to make an account, but the account is very, very simple, and they need to be 13 or older, but they could include whatever resources here as part of a portfolio, for example, or even just an assessment proving that they have understood and have been able to produce some things in this collection that prove that they understand. So again, I'm going to duck out because it's 2:02 and we could be here all day. I'm going to return to our meeting, which is the nice little dot up here in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to stop presenting, look at you with my eyes, make sure you can see and hear me. Can you give me a little wave if you hear me? Everything's good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for being there for me today. She's always good. I want to miss her someday. Go ahead and take yourself off. I'm going to set the timer. Take yourself off if there's something that was a gaping hole that you need me to make sure I include in our classroom. Everything I covered, I have every intention of having links to how to join them and links to the basic uses of them. But again, it probably won't happen until during the weekend. But you have 3 minutes. So
you said you were going to do something tomorrow, but we're not meeting tomorrow, are we? And can I get a copy of this?
No, I have a couple of live trainings tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to.
Okay,
but,
I just clarified that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm going to
I
watch it again. Is it on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You save these on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yes, yeah, they're in 2 places, and you'll get a little post when this has been literally posted. It takes a little while for the video to render. Just for your purposes, you'll be recording Google Meets, perhaps, maybe not. But as you record and then you end the recording, you should know that it's not going to pop up right away, except for maybe your very short attendance videos. The video for this, for example, will take about 3 hours before it'll show up in my Meet Recordings folder in my Google Drive. When it does show up, it sends me a little email saying, basically, hey, we're finally done. And so I know when that is. But so you will see this webinar recording no later than noon tomorrow.
Hey, Kim, is there a integration feature for Wakelet and Padlet with Google Classroom?
I know that there is for Microsoft Teams, for Wakelet, and I suspect I know Padlet, actually for sure. But I do not know, but I'll check.
Thank
And
you.
when we use the word integration, guys, it just makes it much easier to have the two things communicate to each other. Integration for Wakelet and Padlet. I'll make sure because I don't want to say yes or no. Anybody else?
Cam, you mentioned something about an attendance video. Is that how we're taking attendance?
We talked about that during Google Meet on
Oh.
your, and I don't know who you are, because I'm not focusing right now. I'm doing two things. When you are a distance teacher for secondary students,
Mhm.
there will be days that you see your students like this, like I see you, I see Elizabeth, I see Kristen, I see Kay, like it's a romper room, right? And there will be days you don't see your students' faces, right? There will be days that are off cohort, basically. And one of the suggestions is to take attendance on your synchronous days when you do have meetings is to briefly record the list of names that you see when you tap on Mr. Head and Shoulders. That way you're not really interrupting your rhythm for your teaching. You simply tap on record, scroll through the names 5 minutes after the class begins, and then in the recording. So that is one strategy for taking attendance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Last question? Awesome. Okay, so no more, sorry. But anything else that you have, I'm just trying to be realistic in the amount of time it will take me to get the video up. It'll be by noon tomorrow. The things I've promised will be no later than Saturday afternoon for everything I promised yesterday and today. And I will be posting that form so I can make decisions about our next week's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which don't happen until August 11th. Next week, there are no Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday webinars. You guys are busy. I'm busy. We have a lot to chew on and plan. So the next time you'll see somebody is Robert on the 11th, but I'll get that form out so we can make sure we get the topics you guys are most interested in. Okay. Yes, thank you for nodding. I love it, Sandra. Thank you. Bye, Kristen. I'm going to take off. I have things I've got to do. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm with you guys. You know, we're in this together. I know it sounds corny, but I appreciate you showing up every day for these things. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you as always. Thank you.